Okay, so here we go. I'm going to try to explain, and I made a mental note on some of the common mistakes and how to clarify it. Okay, so when it's a question like the very first one, it's kind of like you have 4 pairs of socks, 3 shirts, and so forth. It really just comes down to multiplying them all. However, I'm going to give you a heads up. If this question had said, uh, that you're picking, somehow they narrow it down to just like you're picking that one topping, like pepperoni, let's say, right? How many options do you have now? Then technically the 10 here is just down to just one, right? Just one, because you already picked just the one, and then it's 1 times 5 times 3 times 3. So just read carefully, but this is what that question was all about. This one caused the upper and lower case caused some havoc here. So what I did is I took 1 mark off right here in A, but I wouldn't take marks off again because I got it, you missed it, and so now I'm just looking for are you fulfilling the rest of the requirements. And I will tell you this: some of you did cases here for the first one, which, you know what, I actually appreciated. You were like, okay, it's the or, right? So why not? But the problem is if you just take 26 and 26 separately, it's not as many permutations as if you have all 52 at the same time to pick. You can create way more passwords than if you break it down into just lower and just upper. You know what I mean? So cases do not work in this case. And the mark, if it's just a 1 marker, usually it's just one step. Okay, so between the marks and that it's a password question, watch out for that. There were no special characters, so don't worry about that. But some of you 1 to 9, you said that's 10. So 0 to 9 is 10, 1 to 9 is just 9, right? So watch out for those things. Little nuances. I'm not too worried about it, right? It just takes clarifying and then you're good to go. No repetitions. So I was looking for you actually making sure that there were no repetitions, either for the numbers or the letters. So obviously a lot of you had 26, 25, and so forth. How many passwords? I can start with an I or C. A lot of you split this into cases, but if you didn't, if you went with 2, don't take 2 away from your letters. Right? It should just, you're either taking the I, which means 51 are left, and so forth, or you're taking the C, 51 are left, and so forth. So if you did the cases, or if you did it like this, regardless, you got the marks there for, so three marks for that one. This is a classic grouping question, okay? So some of you just need to maybe revise your formula for grouping. Make sure you have a factorial in your formula for the bracket portion. Some of you did not have a factorial, so I don't know if that's what caused you to get the wrong answer. So watch out for that. And remember, this number back here tells you how many groups you've created up front. That's what this number represents here. So you got to watch out. So that's how many ways there. How many different arrangements, that all models must stay together, right? So you basically, every single model, you factorial that. Then you subtract from 12, you subtract all the numbers you've used to group, and then you go plus 4 because you've created 4 groups. And don't forget about the factorial back here. And some of you actually use the slots because you just don't like my formula. That's just fine. But be careful there too, because some of you circled like 4 slots instead of 5 or something like that. So just be careful when you do those. There we go. And let me talk about C. This is also a classic, okay? So taking pictures with coaches on either end, or those types of questions. You have 2 at the very first, you have 2 to put here, and then just 1 on the other end. So it's always supposed to be 2 times 1. Okay? If you had 3 accords, Let's say you had 3, of course, you would have gone 3 and then 2. Okay, so it's not a factorial here because you don't have, in this case, 2 factorial would have worked. That's just the luck of the draw, right? That it worked for you. There should be no factorial when you have that. But if you take the 2 away, you have 10 cars left. Those you can arrange every which way, and there are 10 slots to fill. So it would be 2 times 10 factorial to get that answer. And some of you need to make sure you enter it properly into your calculator as well. So we're going to talk about that a little later. This one I omitted. I had not covered this. If you did the notes, if you watched the video over the weekend, you would now be able to do this one. But this is indirect reasoning. How many different ways can cars be arranged if CRVs are not parked together? So I already did that, guys. Watch up here. In A, I figured out how many ways can they be together, right? Up here. And if you don't want them to be together, you take all 12, factorial that, right? That would be no restrictions whatsoever. You take away the answer you got in A, where they are grouped together, and everything else does not have them together. So maybe write this down. I did put omit and I did not count it because it wasn't fair. But some of you tried, and I actually appreciated it. But write this down so you have. This is indirect reasoning. Okay. I don't know if I'm going to write this down on the side here. Indirect. Okay, let's keep going. And this basically, I addressed this one with what you tried this morning. It's similar idea, except for you had a combination this morning. But yeah, you just set it up and then set your restrictions. You are able to break down the top, right? The top is bigger than the bottom. Just make sure you break down the correct one and you do it in the right way. Okay, sometimes students skip a step. So just make sure it goes down by 1, right? And so your answer is 7 if you did this right, which a lot of you did get this one. Some of you, like this is worth 3 marks. So some of you lost 3 right off the bat, but I'm fairly confident after today, you'll be like, I got this, right? I can at least score 2 out of the 3, right? Or something like that. What's 3 marks out of 41? That's 7%, right? So just think of it that way. Once you're prepared, you'll be fine. Next one here. Some of you missed the 2 H's. Yeah, I know, it's a bit of a pain. But it's 10 factorial, no restrictions. And then we divide out the identicals. So that's how many ways you have there. This one, this is the reason I'm gonna reduce the total marks on this quiz in just a bit, but this is one of the reasons. This was supposed to be 504 because it's you going back and forth. So think of it this way, right? On your way from A to B, you have 7 options. From B to C, you have 4 options. So that's 7 times 4. Then you come back from C to B, you technically only have 3 left because you've already used 1 of the 4. And then coming back from B to A, you only have 6 left. That's where I get this number from. So 7 times 4 times 3 times 6. So there's 504 ways. Some of you got 28 there because you just went like this, 7 times 4. And I did give you the marks because you were I wasn't specific enough to say, I don't know, when I read it again, I'm like, I think they missed the fact that it's back and forth. A lot of you did. Some of you got the 504, but that's the idea here behind this question. And I'm going to add that to the notes. This is also a classic, the roads between towns. I guess they want you to know, even though in Manitoba, you really just have one or two ways to get anywhere. But anyways, maybe you'll move to like Chicago or something down the road. Who knows? This one was done well. I'm not too concerned. I think some of you just need to make sure when you plug this in that you were not getting the right numbers here. So I don't know what was happening, but your setup was good. So let me just show you one more time. I would strongly suggest, right, you figure out the top and bottom separately. This 4 factorial is 24. This is 2 times 2, so that would just be 24 divided by 4. That's 6, right? 6 factorial, that's 720, right? If you go 6 alpha window, 6 factorial, that's 720. And you could probably do this in your heads, right? This is 24, and that's 2, that's 48. So 720 divided by 48. Just be careful, right? So when you type that in, you cannot do this. Watch, you cannot go 6 factorial. You cannot go 6 factorial divided by 4 factorial. This is painful. Right? You cannot do 6 divided by 4 factorial times 2 factorial. I'm not gonna go factorial, we don't need it. But that's not gonna give you the right answer. You're gonna get 60. Because it's thinking, right, you're dividing these two and then the 2 is up here multiplying. That's what the calculator is thinking. So if you want to put it in like this, you've got to make sure you have brackets around the 2 things that are multiplying and dividing the numerator. Okay, so just little things. Next page. Some of you missed the fact that there are teams here. Watch this, teams, right? That is combinations. And so there's no restrictions. There are 4 grade 11s, 8 grade 12s, right? So you've got 12 to pick from. So 12 choose 5. That's how many teams can be made. If you want exactly 2 grade 11s, so from the 4 grade 11, so now you got to break it down. Okay, now you got to break it down if it's exactly 2 grade 11s. So from the 4 grade 11s, you choose 2, and you still have to, from the 8 grade 12ers, you have to pick the 3, so you have your team of 5. If you just have that, you're only making a team of 2. That's a problem, right? If you just have that, you're only making a team of 3. So you have to kind of look for the 5 and the 12, right? 12, 5. There we go. So 336. And then if it's without any grade 11s, so out of the 4, you choose 0. If you miss this, it wouldn't affect you, right? In this case, because that's just 1. So it's basically 8 choose 5, which is 56 teams. So regardless of how you did it, you got the marks. But that's another reason why I'm going to drop the score a little bit, because I felt like I just threw it out there the day before. And I want to make it fair to you guys. The coach and the assistant coach want to take pictures, no restrictions. So it's just 14 factorial. If I saw 14 factorial, I was fine with it. And of course, some of you miscounted up there. You added 11 and 12, grade 11s and grade 12s, and you got 23 total. So that would have, you came up with 25 factorial. I still honored it because you lost marks up there already. Here's another one on either end. And coaches on either end. So you have a coach up front and a coach at the back. So you have 2 at first, and then you have 1 at the back. Only 1 choice because you've already filled the front with one of the coaches. But at first you have 2, right? So it's 2, and then you have got 12 people left, like the players in between. So it ends up being 2 times 12 factorial. That's how many cases you have there. Can I just say something? If there had been 4 coaches, 1 coach on either end, you would go 4 times 3. All right, and then whatever remains, you would fill the middle. That usually doesn't happen. Usually it's, if it's on either end one person, there are usually only two of those to add there. And then question 9, you had to watch out for, and here a lot of you lost marks because we're dealing with identical objects. So marbles, you cannot distinguish between the 5 reds or the 6 blues and the 4 greens. So you got to divide that out. You cannot count those permutations. So you got 15 marbles, you divide that out. It's almost like the letters that repeat in a word, right? You divide that out. So you got that. And so watch this, the 5, 6, 4 shows up every single time. Every single one of these questions, you have to address that. I don't know, I'm going to try this. And we divided that out. And then often it canceled. So here you were grouping all green marbles together. So you've got your green, 50 minus 4 plus 1 group created of the greens. And the 4 factorials canceled out nicely. So you ended up with this. That's what you get. The last one, all colors grouped together. So the 3 groups, you subtract those 3, you add 3 because you created them. These all cancel out. You end up with 3 factorial, which is just 6 ways. So there you go. And last but not least, these ones, right? So 24 pick 6, or you just have 6 slots to fill in. You start with 24, 23, and so forth to get your final. And oh, I want to say something here. So the only time you have to show me this is if it's a question like this: simplify, evaluate, or show all your work. Anything else from now moving forward, you do not have to do this when it's like a word problem. I just want to find out how many ways you can arrange. Just use your calculator, okay? Like this will be the only time I want you to actually like break it down, cancel things out, and do things like that, okay? This will be the only instance. Don't worry about it. I don't want you to spend time on doing this elsewhere, okay? So here, you just break down the top to get to 102, cancel out, you get that. There was nothing else really to do here except for this part. And then 10 pick 3, you use the formula to set it up. You break down the top, you cancel the 7 factorials, you get 720. And then the last one, use your combination, you end up with this. I break down the top, stop at 7 factorial to cancel 7. I break down the 3 into 3, 2, 1, simplify, and I get 120. You can always check, right? You can type into your calculator 10, choose 3, and make sure your answer actually matches, right? That's always there for you to do. So that's that. Any questions? If you have questions about your quiz and what I marked wrong, you come and see me. But I'm gonna shave off. I'm gonna make this out of 38. So whatever your mark is, space. So I went from 43 to 41 because I omitted that last question on this first page. That's why. So now we're gonna go out of 38. So whatever your mark is out of 38, it probably went up by 5 to 8%, somewhere in that neighborhood.